Hello everyone, and welcome to our first wellbeing session. My name is Jenny Morton and I'm a university partner with the JS Group. We'd like to thank Pearson and Steve for helping us to provide this event free of charge for you. There are many students attending this session from universities all across the UK. We'd like to get to know a bit more about you, so let us know by going to menti.com and entering the codes on the site. Thank you everyone for joining in. That's really interesting to see how many different places everyone's logging in from. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen now and introduce my colleague from Pearson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining. So I'm going to introduce Steve, who's going to be presenting today. Steve, he's a international businessman, is a best-selling author, and he's won the European Motivational Speaker of the Year award 3 times. Two things that Steve has asked me to say is that he's from Yorkshire, so he's not going to be motivating you. So without further ado, let me introduce you to Steve McDermott.
Thank you, Amir. Hello, everybody. This is ridiculous. I think we've got 500 people registered, people from all around the country, right? Now, my plan is for me to have maximum fun in the next few minutes, right? I don't know what your plan is. Don't know what it's been like for you on Zoom and all the rest of it, right? But I think, is it okay if we have some fun? I've written a book called How to Be a Complete and Utter Fuck Up, right? So you've already screwed up because you're here. So this is like no Zoom call you've ever been on, because we have some fun. Is that all right? I'll do a bit of chatting and then we'll see how we go and whatever. Now, I don't know what this year's been like for you so far. I mean, I don't know how you're feeling right now, really, right? I mean, you've shown up for this. What's going on, right? And I don't know how many times you've been on Zoom and all the rest of it. But in the early days, this became one of my friends. If I had you on mute, I'd get you to shout. This is the chicken of doom. The chicken of doom, right? This is my shorthand for COVID, right? And I don't know about you. I think we should make this a chicken of doom free zone, don't you? Things are changing, but it's going to be a while. So we're going to get rid of chicken of doom. Don't need that. I don't want to spend the next few minutes swearing all the time. You know, we're not in a stand-up comedy club or all like that. So I think I'll just use the word duck for that F word, if that's okay, right? Otherwise it could get really, really sweary, couldn't it? So rhetorical question. Got a rhetorical question for you, and it's this. What gets you out of bed in the morning? And those of you that haven't got your cameras on, you're probably still in bed, right? What gets you out of bed in the morning? And when I ask people that question, most people say, this is old school. You probably use your iPhone or whatever. One of these, Steve, gets me out of bed for my lessons or whatever. Now, if you knew, what's this called? It's called an alarm clock. That's a brilliant association, isn't it? That goes off and you feel really alarmed because you've missed your lecture, right? Now, in my book, I talk about, there's a guy, I use a lot of quotes in my book, quotes to avoid. A guy called Zig Ziglar. Now, I don't know if you've heard of Zig Ziglar. You probably haven't. I don't know if you know what nationality is. American, right? He said this should be called an opportunity clock, right? But I know what he means. So I want to dive into this first 4 building blocks of failure or success, depending on what you do with them. But what I do know is happy, successful, fulfilled people use these 4 things to get out of bed in the morning, not an alarm clock. There's going to be no screen sharing from me Is that a good thing? Good. I'm glad, Eunice. Thank you, Eunice. Right, that's good. I'm glad. But I do over here, because I'm from Yorkshire, I've got a really expensive, latest, state-of-the-art bit of technology that you might not have seen before on a Zoom call. Shall I go get it? Right, it's just over here. Won't be long. It's a flip chart. Just before we go on, in terms of following me and stuff, right? How many people are on Instagram? Right. Twitter, I don't really use Twitter. I've got a little survey actually that I want to ask. This is just as an aside. How many people have heard of Clubhouse? Wow. Right, follow me on Clubhouse. If you don't know what Clubhouse is, I'd ask you, but there's too many of you to ask you, I'll tell you. Even some of the people that I was talking to before we started the show hadn't heard of it. It's brand new. It's still in beta testing. It's going to replace all other social media. Clubhouse. But you need to have followers, so you can follow me on Clubhouse as well. It's kind of, best way to describe it, it's like live podcasting, right? So if you want more information, obviously you can read it in my book, or you can follow me on Instagram or Clubhouse, and I'll just going to change the view so I can make sure that my flip chart's in place. So what are the 4 building blocks of failure then that we're going to discuss in this first part? Well, it's these. So what we know is that people who are duck-ups don't know what the values are. And I'm going to define values for you is like what's most important to us. That's what I mean by values. I think going from memory, Jenny, I think it was quite a lot of you claimed to know what your values were. That really surprises me because I didn't figure mine out till I was in my mid-30s. And a lot of you are probably, I don't know, looking around 20. So well done, unless you're lying. So values are what most important to you, more in that minute. Vision is like where you're going. You know, how clearly, this has got a good party trick. How clearly can you see the future, right? And more of that in a minute, right? So vision is where do you want to be 4 or 5 years from now? I think this is a real challenge during the chicken of doom times, right? Purpose, which is the one you were all a bit scratchy on. I won't name her, but Jenny beforehand went, I'm not sure I still know what my purpose is. And I'm not going to ask you how old you are, Jenny, right? But you know, some of the most interesting people I know didn't figure this out for ages, right? So you're not necessarily going to nail that straight away. And goals, you probably know a bit about goal setting, like how measure your progress, right? So I think what we know is fuck-ups don't know any of this. So it would appear, unless you're not lying to me, that you've got a handle on this. So we need to explore it, don't we? And the key thing is to take action on it. This is the 3rd edition of this book, and it used to be called How to Be a Complete and Utter Failure. And between myself and my publisher stuff, we thought, you know, there's maybe a new market for this book, and it's you. It's young people. Because these ideas I'm going to explore with you now are universal. They've been around for like ever. Most of them aren't mine, right? Most of them, if you're wondering where these ideas come from and what's in the book and what I talk about and stuff, it's just me. As a professional speaker, you know, back before pre-Chicken of Doom times, you know, often you're in what's called the green room. Don't know if you know what the green room is, you know, like on Graham Norton and stuff like that, right? And you're in there with all the other people that are going to be in the show or on stage. And so I got to meet these amazing people, right? And it's just a case, the answer to these 4 questions is just a case of me, like, signing up to somebody like, I don't know, back in the day, you might not have heard of him, but he's still the most successful Olympian of all time, a guy called Steve Redgrave. I don't know if you've heard of Steve Redgrave, right? I don't know if you now know how many gold medals he's got. 5 gold medals, right, in consecutive Olympic Games, which is like pretty crazy, I think. I'm just going to change this view again because you've all gone away. So it's a case of me signing up to Steve Redgrave and going, Steve, how do you do that? So the most powerful question you can ask anybody right? And it won't be your mates, because your mates are only at the same level you're at, right? So whoever's in your class, even if it's on Zoom, they don't know much more than you. Maybe the lecturers don't either. I don't know, right? But if you find somebody who's amazing at what they do, sidle up to them and say, can I ask you your advice? That's one of the most powerful questions you can ask anybody. Can I ask you your advice? Because we like being asked for our advice, don't we? Can I ask you your advice? No, bugger off. That never happens, right? So if you're wondering what's in the book, it's just me going up to somebody like Steve Redgrave and going, hey, you've won 5 gold medals, right? Can I ask you your advice? And this is the key question. If you're making notes, it's not a lecture, so you don't have to, right? How do you do that? Can I ask you your advice? How do you do that? And I've got to tell you, often they'll go, I don't know. That's what they'll say, because it's that unconscious competence, right? So you sometimes have to ask them a second question, like, yeah, but if you did know, what would you say? And sometimes somebody like Steve Redgrave in this case had told me in 10 minutes something had taken him like 30 years to learn. That's all that's in the book, right? I remember sidling up to Simon Woodruff. So you probably anybody heard of Simon Woodruff? Very good. Well done, Helen, right? Simon Woodruff founded Your Sushi. Have you heard of Your Sushi? Right? Conveyor belts, whatever. And was on the first series, I think, of Dragon's Den. I remember standing up to Simon Woodruff and going, can I ask you your advice, right? How do you do that? And he told me something about these things that I'm going to share with you in, again, 5 minutes that it probably took him 10, 15 years to learn, right? So what I'm saying is these are universal principles that have been around and will still be around once the chicken of doom has flown away. So you need to think long term, because you're all quite young, most of you, right? And some of you might be just mature students go, well, this is my chance. You're probably, it's become a cliche, but we've had this wonderful opportunity to press the pause button in the last few months, haven't we? So take these next few minutes to just pause and get the most out of this session. Because I'm not here to serve you. I've got 3 grown-up kids, right? And when I decided to change the title to Fuck Up, I thought I was a bit uncomfortable with that, because some people are, but I asked my 3 grown-up children, young adults, the 30, if I could remember their ages, 30, 28 and 25, right? What do you reckon? They went, yeah, great, I love it, because I might pick that book up and read it, right? So you may have some of you have been around the block, you might have heard these ideas before, but these might be new to you, right? So let's just dive into some of them. So values. Who would like their dream job of the future or career, right? So when I talk about these 4 building blocks, I want you to think about them both ways. So it's like what it means to you, but what it means to the organization you might want to work for. So you've probably, if you've done a bit of career research or you've ever had a job, how many people have worked somewhere where the organization claimed to have some values, right? Often in a gold frame, in a gold frame, our values, right? And it's stuff like we'll crawl over broken glass for our customers or our business, right? And have you ever worked somewhere where those values are just in a gold frame? You know, it might have been a restaurant, it might have been in a bar, and it's like, this is what we stand for. So another way of thinking about values is what you stand for and what you don't stand for. But if you want to work for an organization, the first question I think you need to ask yourself is, what are their values and do they live them? What I'm really talking about today, I think, is giving you, after this session, one of these. Do you know what that is? It's a compass. Yeah, it's great. We have to do this, you know, just say, all say compass at the same time. That's it, compass. Well done, Louise. That's excellent, that. Right, it's a compass, you're right. So what I'm really talking about, these give you a compass to guide you. And if you don't have these things in your life or career, so if you think about a business, this is true. Who's heard of Pets at Home? Might be a customer. I love Pets at Home. You might go, there's just a pet shop. No, of all the clients I've worked with over the years, they're the best at like living their values as an organization. So the key about values is to know what your own are, maybe what the organization you're going to work for, what theirs are, and do they live them? Because people claim to have them, but then they don't live by them. So if I give you an example of Pets for Home, one of their values is pets before profit. So I don't need to explain that to you, do I? If you work at Pets for Home and one of the core values is pets before profit, The key thing about knowing your values is it allows you to make really good decisions. So if you were at Pets at Home and you're about to make a decision about something you're going to do and you weren't too sure, you just go, well, what does my compass tell me? How does it guide me? Well, Pets Before Profit, does that fit in? One of their other values at Pets at Home is it should be fun. It should be fun, which is why, again, back before Chicken of Doom times, they have a bring your pet to work day. And I've been at their head office, right, in Stoke, and it's like Dr. Dolittle. You can imagine, can't you? People just bring goldfish and, I was going to say giraffes, but that'd be ridiculous, wouldn't it, right? So there is a question, if you had to go now, because something came up, or you thought, I'm going now, can't be bothered anymore, right? If you just had one thing to take away from today, it'd be this. The best question that will triple your chances of getting your ideal job is, in a job interview, say to the person who's interviewing you, at the right time, what's most important to you? So ask them. So if I was to work here, what would be most important to you? That's triple my sales in sales, right? And then you might need to ask them, and why is that important? But then at the end of the interview, turn it round and say, do you know what's most important to me? I like a sense of freedom. I hate being over supervised. I like to be able to get on and do my own thing. And how this helps you get out of bed, if that's a great organization, they might go, okay, so if I get this right, one of your most important values is you like to get on and do your own thing. The thing is then, with this role, we're going to have to train you a bit. So we will need to supervise you a bit in the first 3 months. But after that, off you go. So if they create that environment where you can live those values, you getting out of bed's not going to be a problem, is it? Now, a word to the wise. So my daughter Megan, who's just moved out this week, so she didn't know what she wanted to do. So unlike a lot of you, when she got to 18, she went, Dad, should I go to university? And I went, no, no, don't go to university, right? And she went, why? I said, because you don't have a big enough reason why. You don't really want to know, and you're not driven enough, not motivated enough. Go do what are you thinking of doing? I'm thinking about going to Australia for a year. Remember when we could do that? So good old Megan, when she was 18, took herself off to Australia. Then she came back, and then she had to decide what career she's going to do. And she didn't think about these things, it's true to say. She just thought, I need a job. And we've all been there, haven't we? I need a job, And I remember when I was at uni, where it was this is how old I am again. It was a polytechnic at the time. Don't you remember polytechnics? No. Leeds Polytechnic, now grandly called Leeds University, right? So she went to Australia for a year, and she came back and thought, I need a job. So she decided to become an accountant. How exciting. I know. Because that's just a job that thought she could do. She's good at sums and stuff. And turned out she was great at it. So here's the other dilemma with this. Sometimes you find yourself doing something that you're good at. And she did that for a while. In fact, for 3 years. So she was an accountant. She became a head of a department. She was doing really well, getting paid loads of money. And then about 2 years ago, she said, I need a meeting with you and Mum. Now, when your grown-up children say to you, I need a meeting with you, this is quite serious, don't you? Right? Okay. She said, I've decided accountancy's not for me. I said, yeah, but, and her mum's going, because one of her mum, my wife Candy's core values is certainty, security. And so her mum's going, yeah, but accountants, people always need accountants, don't they? And it's really well paid. And Megan's going, yeah, but, it just doesn't satisfy me enough. So then she said, so I'm going to go to New Zealand. So she went to New Zealand and got back from New Zealand and moved back in with us. Can you imagine that? She's not lived with us for 5 years, and then she has to live with Mum and Dad again. And we've probably all got similar experiences, right? And then she started looking for jobs. So part-time, she's doing like COVID testing for students, actually. Some of you at Leeds Uni, she was testing you so you could go home for Christmas. Well done, Megan, right? And then she started looking around, and she got one job, and the promise to the values bit they didn't deliver. She's just got her dream job, but she was offered 3 different jobs from 3 different companies. How did she decide which one she was going to do? Does it align with what's most important to me? Was one of them. And the other one was this. So let's talk about this next, because this is the biggest topic of all. So values are, what's most important to me? Do my values align with the company? Am I clear on that? And they're non-negotiable. One of my other clients, Asda, one of their values is respect for the individual. And how that works is they don't have staff, they have colleagues. Now you might go, that's a bit American. But what it means is they go, well, because one of our values is respect, we can't have staff because that says us and them. So if you work at Asda, if you've ever worked at Asda, everybody's called by their first name, from the chief exec, you know, Tony, or to somebody on the checkout, right? But you can't, as they go, you can't respect somebody on a Monday morning and not a Friday afternoon. So these are non-negotiable. So decide what you stand for and don't change, and make all your decisions around your values. Purpose. What is purpose? Now, because if there weren't this many online, I'd ask you to define for me. But by a show of hands, let's just say with my screen, anybody have a definition of what purpose is? I know. What is it? I know, it's a big word. Remember, this is a two-way mirror. So if it was an organization, if we were talking about purpose, interchangeable word with this is mission. So again, if you're going for a job interview or you're talking to an organization, make sure they know what's important and they live those values, but also have they got clarity on this? So knowing what's important, purpose, businesses, often they don't know what business they're in. So again, get clarity on that, right? So when Richard Branson first moved into the airlines, remember when he could go on a plane, right? They said to him, "We don't understand it because you don't know about the airline business, Mr. Branson." And he went, "Well, that's okay, because we're not in the airline business. We're in the entertainment business. It's just at 30,000 feet, right?" And if you've ever flown Virgin, you'll know that when I used to take my kids, you know, when they were little, they understand that. But let's think about purpose from your point of view. So know that companies that are good are focused on what their purpose is. Here's one of my favorite definitions of purpose, and there's a few others in the book as well. So a lot of you were quite young, right? But nobody ever said on the deathbed, you know, at least I made budget, or you know, I got to work on time. Nobody ever said that. So I think the purpose of life for me is, certainly as you get older, is first of all this. If there's been an upside to the chicken of doom time, it's that I think most of us have developed deeper relationships in some way or another, haven't we? Hopefully we have, even though we're having to work through this medium. And wouldn't it be great if we were in a room together, and if from north of England we could have a big cuddle and all that. But this developing relationships and meaningful relationships at work, you know, if you can get to a point where you can go into work and this, what I do feels meaningful. Now, I would, as a bit of a short answer to that, I would go, some people go, yeah, but surely there's some jobs are more worthy than others. So my wife, Candy, not a real name, right? She works at Marks and Spencer's, right? Not in any what you might call a fancy position, in the cafe actually when it was open, because she loves that work, right? But her thing is, I just find it meaningful because I get to serve the customers and the people coming who are clearly lonely or whatever. And it just feels really meaningful to me in building those relationships. And the next bit is, and I think I'd underline this because you're quite maybe young in your career, or you're changing careers, or you've gone back to uni to change what you were doing. A meaningful, positive contribution. So Captain Tom got a lot of coverage, didn't he, during, you know, walking the whatever and all that. And people of his generation, you know, when they did a survey, like we've done a survey for you, we're going to come back to that shortly. And they said, what was the most fulfilling, meaningful time of your life? And the vast majority said the Second World War. They go, yeah, but bombs were dropping, you know, people sadly were dying or whatever. And then why? And they said, because we felt like we were in it together. It felt meaningful, right? Now, I know it's been challenging the last few months and going forward it will be, but you have a choice for the rest of your life when you think about your compass. What am I going to do that enables me to develop loving, powerful, deep relationships and that I've made a meaningful contribution? So when my daughter Megan again was deciding which job to go for, she's going, does this align with my values in terms of my personal compass? And will I be able to make a contribution, you know, that when I get to the end of it, I can look back. Just stop now and imagine you're sat on a park bench. I think we're allowed to sit on park benches now, or are we? I don't know. When you're allowed to sit on a park bench at some point on the road map, it's not even a road map, is it really? Road map, it's I think it's a schedule. But anyway, whatever it is, right? Imagine you sat on a park bench and you're 90 and you're looking back on your life. What would you like to see? Or imagine, you might never have them, but imagine you had grandkids or great grandchildren. What would your letter, the letter that you've written about the life you've led, what would you want to be in that letter? So that's a good way of thinking about purpose. Companies talk about having mission or purpose statements. From a personal point of view, if you want to get started on this, best tip I can give you is write yourself a passion statement. You know, what gets me on fire? What am I passionate about? Because if I can align my values with what I'm passionate about, my purpose, then I'm not going to have a problem getting out of bed in the morning, am I? Right? So I appreciate it's a deep thing, but just action step might be from this first half, I'm going to go write a passion statement. It doesn't have to be, it might be some pictures, might not even be words, but when I look at it, it makes me feel that's what I was put here to do. That excites me. I can always see myself doing that, yeah? Without thinking about what the job might be. Couple more things, I'm going to take this little mini break. So values, how you want to behave on this journey of life. What's meaningful to you? What do you get passionate about? Vision. Now, vision is challenging because not only I think are people finding it difficult to kind of look out there and see the future, but I think also people are like getting focused on like the wrong thing, aren't they? So let's just talk about vision briefly, right? So vision, what I'm about to say now is so profound, I'm going to say it twice. Human beings are the only creatures who can't tell the difference between something they vividly imagine and reality. Human beings are the only creatures who can't tell the difference between something they vividly imagine and reality. And this is to do with vision. Now, for the left brain analytical people in the room, that would be I, that's your imagination, multiplied by V, that's how vivid you make something in your mind's eye. So not just what you see, but what you hear, what you feel, you could even argue what you taste, equals reality. And the key bit is that multiplication in the middle. The more you vividly imagine, the more real it becomes. And that's what vision's about. So what I would say about this building block of failure stroke success is, if you don't spend any time in your head vividly imagining this brilliant future career, this beautiful future relationship, this passionate job you get to do, then it won't happen. Like everything's created twice. Every great idea was once an idea inside somebody's head. So wherever you are now, looking around the room, some of you are sat on beds, some of you sat in some quiet sex, some good bookcases going on. Not many. Have you noticed people have ditched the virtual backgrounds these days? Thank the Lord, right? Wherever you're now, whatever you're sat on right now, say it's a chair, somebody had to see that chair in the head first before they turned it into a chair. So all success is created twice. There's a problem with this though, because what most of you, or quite a lot of you, might have been doing up right until this moment in time, and the challenge will be in the future, is you've been using that formula to do. We're going to take a short break soon, and I might come back to one of you to summarize everything we've covered so far. Right? And I'll pick one of you at random. Now, what you're doing in your head, you're vividly imagining over and over how terrible you're going to be, aren't you? Right? So that's how I'm not going to do that, by the way. I wouldn't dream of doing that. So that's how we do worry. In the last few months, it's also how we've done fear. There's been a lot of that around, hasn't there? There might be some around that in your own head right at the minute. And somebody once said, didn't they? You know what fear stands for, don't you? Forever expecting awful results. Forever expecting awful results. Given the topic of my book, I think it should stand for, and this is what a lot of people have been doing, fuck everything and run, right? So the trouble is, when we're challenged in our circumstances, we tend to use this wonderful gift of vision to do worry and fear. And what you need to do is like, oh, I know a lot of great sports people. And again, I've sidled up to them and said, can I ask you advice? You could put it in my book. And one of the key things Steve Redgrave told me was about I times vehicles are. You've got to vividly imagine yourself being successful in your head first, rather than using that wonderful ability that your brain has to do worry and fear. Make sense? Right. And lastly, some goals. Now, again, you told us in the survey, quite a lot of you seem to be quite goal setting. What I would say about goals, and we've probably got only time to say this about goals, is this: that what are you measuring? So I don't know if you've ever had the chance to speak to young people in school. Do you remember being at school? Right. So occasionally I'll go to school and there might be a load of 14-year-olds or whatever, 15-year-olds, and we'll do a Q&A, and we'll hopefully got a bit of chance to do a Q&A with you guys, right? And they'll say, you've got any questions? I go, yeah, how much do you earn? They'll say. Or what kind of car do you drive? Right? And people, if you're not careful, lots of people, younger people, I'm not suggesting you, but younger people than you, all their goals are around material stuff. Right? What car you have, what house you live in, what you earn. And I would suggest, if you take something away from today, again, as a longer term compass, your goals should be more around what sort of person you want to be. What do you want to do? What do you want to become? What do you want to be, do, and then have? The have comes last. It's kind of like the material things follow. If you find something that's your purpose, if you find something you're passionate about, if you find something that aligns with your values, then the material stuff tends to follow, if that's your thing. And also what you'll find is over time with values, what's important to you typically ain't to do with dosh and money, right? So that's the four. So we're going to take a little break now. The key thing to think about here is you can start anywhere with these, right? If you want to be a failure, you can start anywhere, but they're all intimately connected. So you've got to have all four, like in a little ecosystem, is what I say. Right, let's take a little 2-minute stretch now. Then we'll come back and then we're going to bring out the fifth thing that might fuck you up. And I think this is perhaps the most important thing of all, that all of this will be no good at all if we don't give some consideration to the fifth thing, right? Would appear, unlike most of the population, you've already given some thought, right? There's one final thing that sits underneath this. I did a podcast the other week before Clubhouse was invented, and the guy interviewing me was quite analytical, and he'd gone through like the index in the back of the book, and he said, I wanted to come up with which topic you covered the most in all 47 steps. Now, because I'm big picture, I haven't done that. So if you're wondering what the book's about, he said he thought the book was just about beliefs, really. Beliefs. So and I want to end the session really by saying what really sits under all this and what might stop you getting this to 100% or 99% like on vision and stuff, particularly on vision, is these four things have to be underpinned by, if you want to be a fuck up, no belief, or if you want to be more successful, happy and fulfilled, having the right beliefs in place. So I thought I'd finish with just one master belief. Now, again, where do these beliefs come from? They've been around forever. And I have met one successful people, either consciously or sometimes unconsciously, doesn't use these beliefs to drive their behavior. Now, if I had time, we could share many, but I thought I'd just share one master one with you. And to share it with you, we just need like a little model, really. So let's finish with this, right? I think there's like fundamentally 3 types of people that you come across. There's what I'm going to call happy people. I quite like the word happy. I mean, looking at some of your mugs, not so sure, right? Although, who's that? Yeah, some people are smiling, right? So there's happy people. How do you define happy people? Well, when you meet them, they're like on fire with passion and purpose. They just bloody love what they do. They have no problem getting out of bed at any time of day to go do what they do because they just love it. It's like a massive hobby train set, right? Because they love what they do, because they're doing things on purpose, they tend to be quite good at it. Now, you could use other words like successful, peak performers, whatever. There's people like that, right? Which maybe only 10% of people you know. Then there's most people who occasionally enjoy those moments and states, but kind of just visit there for lunch. And then there's what I might call unhappy people, unfulfilled people, negative people, whatever word you want to pick, unsuccessful, right? How do you know these people? Because you say, John, how are you? And John goes, I'm okay. And you go, well, will you tell your face, right? People like that. And I got to thinking, what's the difference between these people, these people, these people? And I think fundamentally it's a question of belief. It's a question of belief. These people often consciously, but sometimes just over time have discovered unconsciously to make themselves 100% accountable and responsible. 100% accountable and responsible for everything. So how many people today, just a rhetorical question, you don't have to put your hand up to this, just want to reflect on it, believe they are 100% accountable and responsible for where they are? And I don't mean sat in your student accommodation or wherever you might be, or sat at home or whatever. So how many people think, no, Steve, it's a bit more like this? 20% luck, 20% right place, right time, 20% circumstances, silver spoon in mouth, whatever, and 80% down to you. How many people believe that? Guess what? Most people, right? Most people believe it's 20% luck, circumstances, accident of birth, right place, right time. There may be some people who believe, no, Steve, it's 100% nothing to do with me. That's these people. So as I said, I've got 3 grown-up children, 2 boys and a girl. Talked about Megan. The 2 lads are about 2 years apart, Tom and Finley. And we had this wonderful thing when Tom was doing his A-levels, Finley was doing his GCSEs, right? And they had this thing called study leave. Did you have study leave? No. See, I'm too old to have had that. We didn't get any of that stuff. So that seemed to be them just lying around on the sofa watching Jeremy Kyle when it used to be on, right? Now, as the dad, I'm thinking, maybe I should say to them, do you have like a revision schedule, lads, right? So eventually I went, boys. And they went, what, Dad? We're watching Jeremy Kyle. I went, yeah, but, you know, how do you think you're going to do in your exams? And they both went, crap. We're going to do crap in our exams. I went, why? It says, because our teachers are rubbish. Because our teachers are rubbish. And I think this is a good example of, because the reality might be that their teachers, just like your lecturers or anybody, are not that good, right? That might be the reality. But if you focus your blame on them, you know, it's not to do with you. It makes you a victim. You're wearing the victim t-shirt, right? So why would you choose to, and it's a choice, to make yourself more accountable and responsible? Because it creates better results. It stops you blaming circumstances. I think the biggest thing that's happened in the last few months is we've expected him to sort it out for us. Obviously, he wouldn't be sorting it out for us, would he? Right? We've looked at the government. We've gone, they'll sort it. And I think we have to start taking a bit of personal responsibility to like work on the things we can work on. Does that make sense? But I get that this is a really hard belief because it's a lot easier to blame other stuff. Right? So if I was to give you like a final challenge, it's to say, how can I make myself, and why would I want to make myself more accountable, responsible? Now let's just go off at a brief tangent here. I know you're thinking, hang on, Steve, are you saying that, say you were going to go after this session, I might go for a run, right? Say you go for a run, Steve, after this session, and you're running across Temple Museum grounds, and they're taking an elephant. They've got an elephant from Africa, and they're taking it to Chester Zoo, and they haven't quite tied up the elephant in the loading bay, and it gets its trunk out, and it presses like the loading bay button, and like the loading bay doors open, and the elephant tumbles out of the sky and lands on your head. It's your fault. No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is this, right? Make yourself 100% accountable for the things that you can be accountable for. For want of a better word, do terrible things happen to successful, happy people too? Yes. A lot of people go, no, they don't. They're just, you know, influencers and people like that. No, it happens. Of course it does, right? It's got naught to do with what happens. Got, as a final kind of thought, never got anything to do with what happens, but it's got everything to do with how you respond to what happens. And that's been the challenge of the last few months. It would be the next challenge of the next few months too, and for the rest of your life, right? Choose your response. How response able are you? You've probably heard of, stimulus and response. All of us have this opportunity of this, like on the London Underground, mind the gap, right? So there's a stimulus. Something's going to happen. Might happen later today. And I can choose my response, can't I? I can choose my response. So find that gap. Those of you who are parents, or those of you who might be parents in the future, classic parent thing is count to 10. Right? It's good before you go to like DEFCON 12. I remember saying to my daughter Megan, if you keep, when she's about 4, if you keep doing that, you're never going to cinema again. I think it's probably not the right response, was it? I just didn't put that gap in, right? So what we know about successful people, fulfilled, happy people, they just take a moment to train themselves to go, something's happened, I will choose my response. I am able to choose my response, and focus on the things that are inside my influence, and just don't worry about or give any thought to the things that are outside my influence, circles of concern, right? And people, this is all common sense, but it's not necessarily common practice, right? So to summarize that, unless you've got that belief that you have more control than you think, it's going to stop you having vision. Because 20% of people go, it's not to do with me. I can't control the future. I have no control of it, and end up stuck. At the very least, what you can do is when you get out of bed in the morning, just put a big stupid smile on your face. Because you have control over that, and some of you are smiling, and that's great, right? Because emotion follows motion, right? And if you decide to smile, then that's a good thing. It's a massive topic, right? I only found out about this stuff when I was like in my 30s. So I used to work in advertising. So back in the day, if you look at my values and vision, all the rest of it, yeah, fancy car, loads of money, all that, great. None of that would do it for me now. The smell of a new car goes away quite quickly, I've got to tell you, right? But I was like 34 before I was exposed to any of these ideas. A lot of you are a lot younger than that, right? So this is a great opportunity, and obviously I talk about my book, but there's a load of books out there, on great books that on purpose and all sort of values and all the rest of it, right? And I think my final thought on it would be this: it's the decisions you make. We've never had a greater opportunity than right now. The world has shifted, hasn't it? It's shifted, and we can either see this as a massive opportunity, like just an incredible opportunity. This wouldn't have happened. Imagine me trying to get 500 of you in one room at the same time. Quite hard, right? So that's a great opportunity, and I think we need to seize that opportunity. So just kind of go away and go, what is the opportunity for me in this? Am I going to spend the rest of my days or the rest of my time at uni moaning about I didn't have the university experience that everybody else had? That's in the past. Or can I say, I actually created something interesting out of that experience. I saw it as an opportunity to create change, right? And final thought will be this, if you set out to fail, if you set out to fuck up and you succeed, what have you done? It's been great, right? I'm sure there'll be loads more questions or whatever. You know where I am. Social media, Marvia, great smile, love that one, right? Great hair as well, Phil. Follow me on that there social media, Clubhouse, check out Clubhouse. I'm happy to answer all your questions. I'm here for you, is my purpose is to make a difference with this stuff, particularly for young people. And I'm here to serve you. So let me know and I'll do whatever I can to do that. Thank you.